How's it going, everyone? This is Chris back here again with another episode of Civ 5. I say another episode. This is the beginning of a new series that we will be playing for our weekend game slot. And Babylon is our Civ of choice. Playing on a slightly bigger map this time. New PC specs. I want to try out a bigger map to see how it holds up in the late game. I don't know if this series might get derailed at some point, but it should be fun either way. So we're just building up our settlers, not our settlers, our scouts here at the beginning. Go 2 scouts into a granary. I think it's going to be our build order for this time around. Might be a shorter series too because I'm playing on a higher difficulty, which means it might end up being kind of like the start we had the weekend last weekend, I think it was. I did the how to win and how to lose videos. Because I originally intended just to go into another series, but I opened up with a city, got my 4-city start, got everything real nice, but I wasn't paying attention, and the Zulus were my neighbors, and I got attacked, and I died. So, decided to make the failed attempt into a little gag video, stick it there on the weekend, get a fresh start next weekend. Here we are, new game, new Babylon. Babylon's another Civ that's pretty decent. They get a free Great Scientist when they research writing, which we can use to put down an academy, which with the academy we'll get an additional 8 science. Morocco appears to be our neighbor. Don't know where we cross paths with him, but oh, it was down here with our warrior. That makes sense. He's not a bad neighbor. I mean, there are worse neighbors to have. Morocco is a good trader. They're with trade bonuses to their caravans and cargo ships. I think it's maybe only their caravans, but I don't know. Either way, they tend to do for trade, which means being their neighbor isn't a bad thing. It's not like the Zulu where you can expect early game aggression. I don't remember if they have a unique unit. Because I know some civs don't. But if they do, I'd imagine it'd be a mid-tier civ. Mid-level unit. Probably Renaissance Industrial. Cash. Doesn't ring a bell. I think they might have a cav. I don't know offhand. So we're just exploring around the map. How far we can get with these initial explorers before we have to call them back to deal off barbarian raids will determine how much of the map we see for how long. Eventually we'll build up a big enough force that we can actually explore and defend ourselves, but right now we don't have anything to defend, so we're full on the explore train. This is worry a little bit about money because we don't want to end up bankrupting ourselves because we put out a bunch of units. Although we are going into writing as early as possible, so we can get down our academy and get the most use we can out of it. This is mortal difficulty, so the AI will have science bonuses that we are not privy to. And I do have flashbacks of Moroccans having a mounted unit that was pretty decent, but it's a little bit further away, so we don't have to worry about too much early aggression. So we're finding some camps, finding ruins, all good things for the early game. A lot of the early game is just finding units. Finding ruins, finding barb camps, and finding city placement locations. Like, ideally, we want our cities to be in locations where they all have at least one additional luxury resource that is not present in the capital. But that may not always be the case. So we can't be too choicey. Although this setup around our city is pretty decent for us. We have a lot of mountain ranges, which are really good for defense, because 90% of some units in the game can't actually go over mountains. I think the only ones that really can would be the Carthaginians. They have a unique unit that can go over mountains. But most of the time they're a hard block for civs trying to invade you, and the guy doesn't really do very well with choke points, so that's another boon for our defense here. Now, I actually managed to get this episode out to the perfect 30 minutes that I was going for. The next one I kind of forgot to put the timer on, so a little longer than it should be, but I won't treat it any differently as a result. It is still a unique child in our empire-based plan. Plus a Civ 5. Don't know where that was going, but we're doing okay. Got our worker, beginning on improvements. Luckily we found animal husbandry in a goody hut, or we wouldn't have the option to improve anything yet, really. Because without ironworking, you can't cut down forests, so literally the only thing we could improve was that cattle. Which, in retrospect, probably should have been used as an academy location, but what can you do? So we have some copper down there, that's a good resource. Great library was obtained pretty early on, turn 18. That's pretty quick. I mean, we have the tech to get it, we just would never have the production to actually get it out before the AI could, especially on higher difficulties. That might be a fun idea for another video if I need something to do jokes about, because testing out what is it called? Great library rushes on higher difficulties could be a short, entertaining video. It's over before turn 20 some, so if you don't have it out, you're not going to get it. And we'd have to have pretty unique circumstances. I mean, this start might have been good to get it. If we could have got our worker out first, we could have queued up some forest removal for the turn that we actually got the ability to put the Great Library out, and then you put in 2 or 3 forest to get in an additional 39 production. That covers roughly a third of the 130 some that it takes, so you end up with only having to go through the 90 production in your city, which brings it down to like 10 or 9 turns. Could be possible. In fact, I'm quite confident it is possible, but it would be an all-in strat, and if you failed, you'd pretty much be set back for most of the mid-game. Like, we're not going for any power plays here. We're going for the basic traditional opener. Get up to 4 population, start pumping out settlers, put down 4 cities, get libraries up, and get the National College up before turn 100. That's our goal. That's how we intend on winning the game. Whether or not that'll actually work for us or not, I don't really know, but we'll see. That strategic view look there real quick was because the silk tile there displays a forest, but there isn't actually a forest there because we cut it down. So our scout nearly got killed by some axemen, so we have to run him back. Good thing about scouts is that they have movement. They don't have the same movement restrictions as other units. So if they're getting attacked, you can move them back behind 2 hill tiles, and the enemy probably won't be able to reach you. Although there are circumstances where they'll still be able to hit you, regardless of your move. Said early game's not very exciting, but because we are on a much bigger map, we'll be able to put down our 4 cities relatively unopposed. Morocco's a little close, but I don't imagine they're going to be a huge threat to our expansion. I mean, as long as we can get 1 city below Babylon, we'll be happy. So my plan here is to get the settler to the mountain tile, 2 tiles east, 2 tiles south of the silver, next to the mountain, up from the river. That city placement isn't ideal, but it'll grab silver for the Empire. It'll help us clear out the barbarians in the area, and it'll be a good buffer protection for Babylon. Plus, it's south enough that it dissuades Morocco from coming any closer. I don't actually know if that's Morocco, come to think of it. For some reason, my brain is jumping to other words. That city placement should be good enough, and having it next to the mountain will enable us to build observatories in the mid-game that should help shoot up our science. Because we are in the midst of a huge crowd of snowballing civs. Like on the higher difficulties, they can snowball pretty heavily if you don't do anything to them. Or if you let them start running over people. So we have to worry about that. Luckily for us, we have enough units around that it doesn't really matter too much what the enemy does, because we have I'm pretty sure he can't take the scout with the settler. And if he kills the scout that's not with the settler, the spearman will just take him out. So it looks like that's what he's gonna do. And he didn't kill it, but he came close. Getting some pillaging going on over in our mainland. Can't let the barbarians distract us from what's really important. We ended up killing our scout because we didn't want to use our spearmen. If the scout had managed to take out that unit, we could have called our spearmen back to help defend the mainland, but such is our fate. And here, we've gotten our settler to where it wants to be, so we should be safe. 1 warrior attack shouldn't be able to kill even the half-health scout, so we'll be safe enough. Our third city, second settler, will likely go down towards the copper. Because I'd like to get off a grittier forward settle on Morocco if I can. One of the nicest early game strategies for higher difficulties, in my opinion, is just to try to make your neighbors as weak as possible. Having weak neighbors means you don't really have to worry too much about defense. So our west and our south are our settle directions. Our academy got pillaged, but it won't stay pillaged for very long. We can move in our spearmen and take out its occupiers, and then we can move our worker over to go repair it immediately, so we're not in the worst position. And our settler can move south. That hill tile across from the iron And north of the copper should be the best location for us at the moment. So there's an argument for going over on the coast where the crabs are, but I kind of like this mountain range a lot and want to get as many observatory cities as I can out of it. I know that might make our neighbor a little angry at us, but I'm hoping that won't be too big of a problem. So we're moving up the tradition tree. We got the negative happiness in the capital. Removal of unhappiness in the capital. That should help us move into the late game without having all of our luxuries improved yet. Because you need at least 4 happiness for every city you're going to found. So that's the subtraction that it's going to cause on the empire. Overall, I think we won't be doing too bad here, but gotta keep an eye out in case there's something lurking in the fog of war that wants to take our settler. You never know. The barbarians can be pretty annoying. Like there's a camp right there. This city placement's nice for a couple of reasons. You have the mountain next to it, mountain adjacency, but you also have river adjacency. That'll probably help us out in the late game if we can manage to keep the city for that long. So instead of going straight for our 3rd settler because we don't really have the happiness to support it, we're going to get a spearman out. That spearman will help us defend ourselves. And then we can go into our third settler. Don't really have a great place for him yet. Kind of torn between our western locations. Going out to sea would provide us probably a better city location because we have access to another luxury. But staying close to the mountain range gives us another observatory, which gives us another boost to science. So it's a bit of a toss-up. This city here in the south won't have the best food production initially, but it's going to have really good production. So whenever we build a new city from this point, we're going to queue up a library and a granary. That's just going to help us get out the 2 buildings that we really need in cities before they become their own self-functioning entities within our empire. And our city can just bombard this camp down into the red house, and then the scout can scroll in and take the actual camp. So we have our spearmen up north defending our capital. Our happiness is still positive. Our gold could be better, but it's not the worst. And our science is slowly improving. I say that it hasn't improved that much over the turn, and that's because we haven't really done anything with our science buildings that we have access to yet. We're building libraries in places, but we haven't built a library in our capital yet because we wanted our early settlers out. Our full greed mode may hurt us in the end, but it will be better for the long game if we can survive into the long game. So we take the camp like we planned. Luckily, Morocco doesn't seem to be expanding yet. Got now 3 cities. As far as we know, he's still in 1, but he probably has more than 1. That desert location there would be good for Petra, but there's next to no chance we can get it. So we're going to go for we are going to continue building up our cities. Probably going to settle next to the mountain, next to the citrus up in the west. Seems like the best option for us. Our scout's going to go and do some more exploring while he can. Good to see as much around your borders as possible, so it'll be worth it in the end. Not sure how this campaign will go overall because we are pretty low on the leaderboards. But over the course of this recording session, we start working our way up, so we're obviously doing something right. I just don't know if we're going to be doing enough right to actually squeeze out a victory before the AI does something crazy and beats us down. I'd say we will have off coming to a close at some point during the week too, which means we'll be having a new series on the channel. Might do one-offs for a little while, just to get into things before I decide on something new. Don't know rightly what that would be, but all kind of different fun games we could play. Probably end up doing some browser-based games too for a bit. Because while off was fun, pretty long commitment. And I already do some browser-based things with the Duolingo series that is probably going to be there indefinitely, but it might be fun to try out some other things. So we have the cities we want at this point. Well, I say we will have the whole 4 cities that we want. How we parlay that into victory is going to be a little iffy, but shouldn't be too big of a problem. Now we just have to start cultivating our cities into worthwhile additions to our empire. And the first step in doing that is getting up luxury, which is why we're heading down towards the copper. 4th city comes online. Not in the best place, but it's not an awful location. At least we know if we're settling towards Enrico Dendale, that we won't have to worry about too much early aggression. Venice being a one-city civilization means they're not going to be forward settling you anytime soon. They might take a city-state near you, but they're not going to be the ones doing it. And most of the times in civilization games, Venice just ends up being a big prize pot they end up grabbing at some point in the game. He builds a bunch of wonders, and then at some point somebody declares war on him, rolls into a city, and takes everything that he's built. So we have our small spearman force. We are quickly approaching the end of this video. Got 5 minutes left. And we're feeling pretty good about our empire. Might even be on track to have 100 science by turn 100. Which is pretty okay in standard Civ. Defending our empire may be a bit of a problem. We, at some point in the future, will hopefully get rolled up, so that way we can move our troops between our cities to easily defend them. But we're not there yet. Right now we've just staked our claim on the world, and we have to watch it grow. So we got philosophy. National College has become an option for us. Although we'll need to get libraries up in order to actually make it. In the meantime, we're going to go for a shrine. This is really late for a shrine, but on bigger maps, it's not as punishing to start your faith production late. There are a lot more availability for things like religion. So we still could get a religion. Although, even if we don't get a religion, we'll still want some degree of faith production. We are going to go rationalism like you do pretty much every game. And with that, we'll be able to buy great scientists with faith, which will be very good for us if we have a sizable amount of faith by the time we get there. We might not, but we hopefully will. So we find a camp up north. Scouts patrolling around. Probably going to have him park in that city there. Seems pretty safe. Morocco seems like he's going to be a good neighbor. He settled in another city, but it isn't aggressively close to us. Should be a good trading partner with our southern city. And we have to build up some more workers because we are severely lacking in workers. I think we're building 2 workers at the moment, which means we should have enough workers for the game. For the middle game? Not the middle game, what are they called? For the early game. I guess that's right. Either way, it's just mainly the problem that we have a lot of cities with unimproved tiles and we need to start improving them as fast as possible. So we managed to take out the camp here. Well, we got close to taking out the camp. Got our spearman to the silver. He's going to sit there so that the workers will be safe when they actually get over to improve it. Might actually end up being the workers made in that city that end up improving its silver. Our attack on the northern barb camp will probably be pretty secure. Even if they attack us and bombard us, it won't be enough to prevent us from taking the camp. And they apparently did, I just didn't notice. And we managed to take the camp. Have our copper online, that'll be another 4 happiness. Keeping us at 4 happiness, so we are just skirting the line of responsible civ play here. You always want to stay happy because if you're not happy, you're not growing. You can grow while unhappy, but it's way slower than growing while you're happy, so you need to keep on top of that, which is something that I'm not always the best at. So Portugal is out there too. Probably ought to pop up for that, but I didn't notice. Well, we are actually approaching the end of the episode. We have about 50 seconds left, so I will bid you guys farewell for now. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you're going to enjoy our second game of Civilization 5. Goodbye for now.